Let's stand and let's sing.
Church, we're excited that y'all are here today. If you're our guest, we're especially proud to have you. Thank you so much, Rusty, for coming and leading us today. If y'all get a chance when we get done, make sure you stop by, shake his hand, and tell him how much we appreciate that. This isn't the last time you're going to hear this today. We're a week from Easter. So we're doing our part. We're going to have some great music for you. Our pastor's going to have an awesome message. We're doing our part, so do your part. Please invite somebody to church next Sunday for Easter Sunday, all right? Glad to have you here. We're finna sing some music. If you don't know the words, they're going to be right on the screen, so y'all join us. Let's get worship God through some music.
The Bible is not a series of disconnected stories. It is a single narrative in which every story, every character points beyond itself to one who is greater. The story of Adam and Eve is not just about the first man and woman. There is a true and better Adam who passed the test in the garden and whose obedience is ascribed to us. There is a true and better Abel who, though innocently slain, has blood that cries out not for our condemnation, but for our acquittal. There is a true and better Abraham who answered the call of God to leave all the comfortable and familiar and go out into the void to create a new people of God. There is a true and better Isaac, the son of laughter, of grace, who was not just offered up by his father on the mount, but was truly sacrificed for us all. There is a true and better Jacob, who wrestled and took the blow of justice we deserve, so we, like Jacob, only receive the wounds of grace that wake us up and discipline us. There is a true and better Joseph, who at the right hand of the king forgives those who betrayed and sold him and uses his new power to save them. There is a true and better Moses who stands in the gap between the people and the Lord and who mediates a new covenant. There is a true and better rock of Moses who, struck with the rod of God's justice, now gives us water in the desert. There is a true and better Job, the truly innocent sufferer, who then intercedes for and saves his foolish friends. There is a true and better David, whose victory becomes his people's victory, though they never lifted a stone to accomplish it themselves. There is a true and better Esther, who didn't just risk losing an earthly palace, but lost the ultimate heavenly one, who didn't just risk his life, but gave his life to save his people. There is a true and better Jonah, who was cast out into the storm so that we could be brought in. There is a true and better Passover lamb, innocent, perfect, helpless, slain so the angel of death will pass over us. He's the true temple, the true prophet, the true priest, the true king, the true sacrifice, the true lamb, the true light, and the true bread. The Bible is not a series of disconnected stories. It is a single narrative that points to one person, Jesus.
I think I could just kind of go home. I mean, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do after that exactly. That was awesome. Wow. And amazing. It really is. It is the truth. So, no, the answer would be no. I'm not going to preach like that. You know, I went to Dallas Baptist University. I got my degrees in counseling, marriage and family counseling, and there's a theology school there as well. And at the time, I was traveling with a pastor teaching leadership all over the country, and we'd go to pastors' conferences and things. And so, you know, I'd seen lots of varieties of churches, very diverse churches, and there was a young African-American guy that was graduating with a theology degree that got up to do the prayer at it was our graduation ceremony from Dallas Baptist. And so he got up to do the prayer, just like the opening prayer. Well, if you haven't been to some other types of churches, it was a 25-minute sermon prayer. I mean, it was like, you know, and you could tell everybody has never been a part of that type of church is going, what's going on? And, you know, this guy's, I mean, he is go in for 25 minutes just to do the opening prayer. We're thinking, this is going to be a really long graduation ceremony, you know. And so, yeah, I don't even try to do anything close to that. That would not be good. So anyway, my name is Rusty Foster. I know Raymond introduced me. I don't know about the whole getting him in shape thing. I guess I do harass him relentlessly. I mean, his kids, and anyway, so it's fun to. Yes, we get to work, and I get to make fun of him and push him, and you know, as much as I can. So that's kind of my job in Raymond's world, is just to relentlessly, just, you know, all those things some of y'all would love to say to him, I get to say them because, you know, I'm on the board and that's what my job is or something. And so just so you know, most of what you think and you wish, I am telling him that out loud. And so not that it does any real good, you know, because it is Raymond, but no, he is definitely one of my closest friends. It's just so nice to have relationships like that where, you know, he's the classic 2 a.m. broken down the side of the road. That dude would be there for, and there's just not that many people, you know, in most of our lives that we can say are like that. And so I count it a blessing. And now, you know, you can tell by my size, you know, he is lifting more weight than me on most stuff that we do, which is a little bit humbling and intimidating. But you know, that's okay. I'm all right with that. And so. Although there are times where Casey lifts more weights than he does, which is really fun. So we do like that. Anyway, I am really glad to be here. I always love, there's, you know, I've told some of y'all before, there's not that many churches I really want to go speak at on any regular basis. I was 20 years full-time ministry. This is my wife, Annette, dragging her along in that journey. Sometimes it was tougher on her than it was, you know, on me. But, you know, ministry is an interesting world to live in on a full-time basis. And so, you know, seen some things, done some things, and you start finding out who you are and how you want to do life and what your view of Christianity really is, and what's just Sunday morning hoorah and what's really going on out there in the world. And I'm a very practical Christian. I don't, you know, I think most people aren't showing up for a theology degree. I don't think most of you came in and you're going, man, I really wish I could go to seminary and get a theology degree on Sunday mornings. And so, most people are going, well, how the heck do I do tomorrow? Do I do marriage, parenting, kids, jobs? Like, how do I do that? And so I enjoy that side of Christianity. So anytime I talk, so any churches that want more than that, you know, yeah, that's just not my calling. It's not my direction. So it's fun to come here where I know I can, you know, talk as, you know, challenging and controversial as I want, and y'all are all like, yeah. So, I should put a disclaimer. Whatever I'm about to say, Raymond has no idea. He's not accountable for any of that. Don't hold him accountable for any of that. I'm just going to say it, and y'all can edit it out on he won't know. And I'll just, if y'all tell him I said bad things, I'm just going to lie and say I don't know what they're talking about. I was, you know, listening to the recording. Michael, he can clean it up for me. So I know y'all been doing a series. I heard Jim last week, which is always fun. What an amazing story. I know Raymond was in the middle of a series, and he kind of wanted us to finish those up. That's always fun, partly because Raymond and I never actually got to sit down together before he left, so I wasn't sure what week of this thing was, so I just picked the one that I liked, and I'm running with it. But when I heard Jim really didn't cover what he was supposed to last week anyway, so we're just going to have a little bit of fun and talk about some stuff that I think is relevant. So how many of you would say, I should pull these out now because I'm going to need these. How many of you would say you want to know God's will? Like, and would you agree? I mean, if I knew God's will, would you do it? Like you say, man, if I just knew God's will, I would do it. That's a very typical thought, right? Most of us would say this. And so it sounds simple to say that. Like, you know, as I was working through this is really convicting. This is one of those messages where I'm really talking a lot more to me probably than y'all. Y'all just along for the ride on this, but it sounds really simple. Boy, if I just knew what God's will, yeah, man, absolutely, I would go do that. And how do you think it would feel if you knew God's will? Like, what is our expectation? We think we'd have what? Peace, confidence. We'd be like, yes, that's God's will. I have courage. I'm going to go do that, right? Isn't that what we think? That's what I thought. I thought, man, if I just knew God's will, I'd be like, just go do it. And yet, because those are all very appealing thoughts, and yet it's you know, that's really not Bible at all. The whole I'm going to have peace, I'm going to know it's the will of God because I'm going to have peace. You know, that's really not in the Bible anywhere. Like if you think about, let's think about the people that knew God's will. And so just put just maybe for a minute, maybe it's not quite that simple. So Adam, did he know God's will? Like directly from God. Dude, one thing, man. I mean, don't eat the dadgum apple. I mean, this is not complicated. And so he's sinless. The dude was sinless, and yet, now the wives are going, well, of course, as a man. Of course, I mean, so to which I'd say, he ate second. I'm just saying, So, so Adam clearly knew God's will, and yet emotions or whatever, got him. So what about Abraham? Knew God's will. Go kill your son. You think he had peace? I mean, really. Dude, one kid, finally, and he said, yeah, no, I want you to go kill a guy. Clearly knew God's will. Was it a struggle to go, okay, heck yeah. How about Noah? You're going to look absolutely insane. Hey, I don't know, build a boat in the middle of the desert when there's no, and it's going to take years and years, and you clearly knew God's will. David, you are king, dude. I'm telling you, you are king. And what did he do? Ran like a scared child and hid in caves and just totally running away from it. How about the disciples? I mean, they're hanging out with Jesus, y'all. Like, oh, Jesus, if I was there with Jesus, yeah, if you would do the same thing. I would do it. Hanging out with Jesus. I mean, you can go. There's tons of examples, but he's like, look, this is pretty intense. And so I need y'all to just pray. And what they do? They fell asleep. You're like, he comes back, hey, y'all. Let me reiterate God's will. Pray while I go over here. And they fall asleep again. You're like, what the heck, And so even Jesus, you're going, clearly knew, this was God, knew God's will, fully man. And yet, what happens when he's about to do what he knows he's called to do? He's sweating blood. Like, it's a physical condition. When you are so stressed out, you sweat. A little stressed out, even though he is who he is. And so, of course, they mentioned Jonah, which we're going to talk about today. Jonah, sitting there, clearly know God's will. And what's he do? Just takes off running. So I just want to encourage you, to consider maybe it's not that simple. No, maybe if you do, maybe you do know some things. If you think of God's will like one big thing, it's probably easier to say, well, I don't really know what that is. So therefore, I'm not accountable to doing that because I'm not really sure. I've always said, if you read the Bible and you want God to write it on the wall, have you read what happened to the people that got writing on the wall? Because that didn't go well for them. If I just had a donkey just tell me, yeah, same thing. If animals start telling you God's will, that does not end up well for those people. And so, but I think we know little things. We have this something inside. I ain't call it peace because it's definitely not always that, but we may know what that is, but we're just like all these people all throughout the Bible. It's not so simple to do what we know maybe we're supposed to do from the will of God. So I'm going to challenge you a little bit on that idea. So when you rely on feelings to interpret your standing, your relationship, or with God, you're in a real dangerous place. So I'm really sensitive to caffeine. That's great if I need energy and to wake up. I'll drink a cup of coffee, and it's sort of, I don't know what crack cocaine would do to me, but this is why I've never done drugs. I'm already pretty high strung. Anyway, I thought, man, if I do drugs, I'm not sure that would go well. So, amongst other reasons. But coffee for me, so if I drink coffee after 3 o'clock, I'm like laying there at 2 in the morning going, who's awake? Who can I call? What can we do? And so what also happens for me, though, is, caffeine has a 6-hour half-life. And so somewhere, if I drink at 8 or 9 in the morning, somewhere around 3, I become clinically depressed. I am like, oh my gosh, my wife hates me, my kids, the world's falling apart. I had to, somewhere early years ago, I had to learn, okay, wait a minute. This isn't a spiritual attack. This is a chemical crash from drugs. I mean, you just put caffeine in your body. I had to recognize all these feelings I'm having right now are not real. The whole world is not falling apart, and everything's going to be okay in about 30 minutes whenever this is over. And so I really had to train myself, and even now go, wait a minute. Okay, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I had a bunch of caffeine. I'm just crashing. Right? This is not real. And I think we have to be careful to do that with our relationship with God. We start judging how things are going in the spirit based on how we feel. Well, there's just nothing in the Bible that backs up that. I mean, it's, you know, what you feel about something could be because the pizza you ate about 2 hours ago. And so to have deep theological discussions, you know, you got to be really careful there. And the same is true about the will of God. Most people I talk to think it's going to be, they're going to have the courage and confidence and peace. It's going to be this all positive. And man, I'm just telling you, all throughout the Bible, that's not what that's like. Michael, let's pull up the scriptures. So this is Jonah's story. I think most people know this. The word of the Lord came to Jonah. Like, I don't know how, but we'll just say they felt good enough about it that they put the word of the Lord and put Lord in all capitals. And so it's like really clear that God told Jonah something. So let's just assume it was about as close to audible as you can get, and he knows what the will of God is. So it says, go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness has come up before me. So, not good people. This is not a happy place. This is not like, oh, let's go to this happy, wonderful, sandals resort and talk about Jesus. But Jonah ran away from the Lord and headed for Tarshish. He went to Joppa where he found a ship. Doesn't that sound like Star Wars? He went to Joppa where he found a ship bound for the port. Anybody else have that moment where like, oh my gosh, it's Star Wars. Joppa, the hut, almost, Anyway, where he found a ship bound for that port, and after paying the ferry, went aboard and sailed with it to flee from the Lord. Anybody else relate? You're like, this is God, right? This is like God of the universe. He's everywhere. And Jonah's like, I'm going to run. I'm going to run from him. I'm going to get away from him. Like, I'm telling you, I relate to this stuff. Y'all just go, oh my gosh. I've had stupid thoughts like that too, where I thought, go ahead. Then the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. All the sailors were afraid, and each cried out of his own God, and they threw the cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. But Jonah had gone below deck, where he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. It's just, that'll make friends. The captain went to him and said, how can you sleep? Get up and call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us, and we will not perish. Then the sailors said to each other, come, let us cast lots to find out who is responsible for this calamity. And they cast lots, and guess what? It fell on Jonah. Okay, you're in the boat sleeping while everybody else is freaking out, throwing things, trying to save the ship. That scored points. And then they roll dice, and it all shows up, and it's like, boom, big spotlight hits Jonah like, hey, that dude right there. This is going downhill fast for Jonah. So they asked him, tell us who is responsible for making all this trouble. What do you do? Where do you come from? Where's your country? From what people are you? He answered, I'm a Hebrew and I worship the Lord. Yeah, that one that told me to do something earlier. The God of heaven who made the sea and the land. This terrified them, and they asked, what have you done? They knew he was running away from the Lord because he'd already told them so. So he's like, oh yeah, God told me to do something. I'm totally running and not listening. And they're like, who runs from a God? Like even them, go, what? Yeah, you ought to be terrified. He was obviously not. And so the sea was getting rougher and rougher. So they asked him, what should we do to make the sea calm down for us? Pick me up and throw me into the sea. Now look, courage, right? Hey, I know it's all my fault, and but I'm not going to jump over that. Dude, man up. You ran from God and just jump in over, and he won't even do that. The dude doesn't even have the courage. It's all my fault. Y'all going to throw me in the ocean. Just climb up and jump in the daggum ocean. I'm still not taking responsibility here. So I know that's all my fault. This great storm has come upon you. Now these guys are like, no, we don't want to kill a guy. But they could not get, the storm kept going. But so they're trying to say, oh, we don't want to do that. Good guys. I know people would be like, all right, I think about the church as a whole. We're really good at throwing people over the moon. It's all their fault. Let's chunk them. So instead, the men did their best. Go ahead. then they cried to the Lord, "Oh, Lord, please do not let us die for taking this man's life." So they finally realized, we are going to die if we don't do this. And so they're scared of God. Like, they have a better perspective of God than Jonah does, who says he knows him. I mean, they're like, oh my gosh, God's doing all this. Now we're scared if we throw him over, he's going to just kill all of us. So do not hold us accountable for killing an innocent man for you. Not so innocent, but oh Lord, have done as you please. They even go, you are clearly God. We understand this is all you. Please don't kill us. But basically, you're God, so whatever you want. I mean, what? The non-Christian, those guys had a better perspective and understanding on how to have a relationship with God than Jonah does. And so they took Jonah, threw him overboard, and the raging sea grew calm, So, and I think the last part says, is there one more in there? And at this, the men greatly feared the Lord, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord he made. So they get it. They're like, oh my gosh. I mean, that's a pretty, now, I've always said, okay, God, here's Saul in the New Testament. He's just doing all this bad stuff. And you knock him off a donkey and blind him, and send him to somebody, and that's how Saul becomes a Christian. I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, can you just not do that for everybody? Because that may make the whole thing be a lot easier if you just knocking people off, and blind them, but that's not how this thing works. I don't know why, all that happened, except what that intro video was saying. When you start realizing every story and every chapter and everything is part of a bigger story that we are all a part of. And that is true also of your pages and your chapter and your whatever you're going through right now that may feel like that storm. Everything has a part of the bigger story. And if you don't get that perspective, this thing can get pretty overwhelming in the middle of a storm with the way, if you only see that, that's pretty terrifying how life can look. And so sometimes he's done all this to look at the bigger story that's happening. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. So when I was thinking about that, just the relating to this, I don't want to go talk to those people. Anybody have people you don't like? Half the people. Oh no, I like everybody. Okay, and so we all do. I've being involved in ministry forever. You get a church of 1,000 people. Honestly, how many do you think the pastor likes and gets along and connects with everybody in the church? It doesn't happen in a church of 50. Well, you get a church of 1,000, and so to say I don't like those people. Maybe I don't like their color. Maybe I don't like their ethnic origin. I don't pick a reason. The world is a very diverse place. It is not hard to find people you absolutely are uncomfortable with, don't relate to, and then go, I don't like those people because of whatever reason. Or I don't want to go do that thing, whatever that thing is that he's been nudging you, just that deal. If you ever had those moments where this thing keeps popping up and people around you are going, dude, clearly, somebody trying to tell you something. That whole statement, man, anytime somebody's trying to, but you don't want to go do that. Why? Because fear and all kind of other stuff. You don't feel inadequate, but I can totally relate to this Jonah thing. Whatever his ultimate reasons were, I don't want to go do that. So the examples throughout the Bible are that we don't always accept this will thing really well. And so he takes off. Obviously, that doesn't work out well. So what do? We probably don't have anything as dramatic or sitting underneath a tree, and God hits you on the head, and you go, go talk to the city. That's probably not where most of us live. It may be something much more simple than that. But what do we do to run away from? Because it sounds just dumb to me. I'm going to run away from God. I'm like, where are you going to go, man? So what do? We just don't come to church. I don't want to be around those people and hear that story and be around some. We're going, if you're fortunate enough, and hopefully you are, to have friends who will call you out in a positive way and keep you accountable, you don't hang around those people. You avoid those people. I don't want to see that mirror telling me what to do. So we avoid certain people. We avoid certain places. We sure ain't going to pick up our Bible and start reading and do. We do the same kinds of things. We just do it in a different way. And to those around us, we're going, Gary, dude, really? I mean, clearly God is trying, and so being a part of a body where you have some opportunity for that, this is why we're not, we're not supposed to be isolated. I mean, it's, if you look at the bigger story of Christianity, this is a war. I mean, we are at war here. And so you get isolated in war and you are toast. And so we are designed to be around people. God put a group of people, put them on a ship with a group of people who got it and said, Jonah, man, I mean, hey, dude, should you be so lucky to have some people? And that's part of why that's why I don't like religious churches. Can we just get honest? I mean, let's get real and honest and talk real life. It's all these games we play on Sunday morning. I hate that stuff because it robs us of this. If we're all worried about we got to dress right and look right, and everybody's got to do, then nobody's going to be honest about what's really going on. Then I don't feel comfortable enough to walk up because I don't have a relationship with them. I'm not going to walk up and say, hey, man, I mean, you told me you really felt like this was on your heart. What are you doing with that? Are you doing anything? Nobody's going to do that in environments where we don't get real. And so to be in a small group where he can go, yeah, but man, I don't know. I just don't. That's scary. I don't know if I can do that. Man, look at me. Look at my past. To be in a group where they go, yeah, absolutely. Welcome to the world. We are all jacked up, broken, messed up, no doubt about it. Hey, let's. What's the Bible say about it? Man, it says, have you studied the disciples? Have y'all really looked at these guys? Talk about messed up. I mean, they're all. He's trying to change the world, and they're going, hey, who's going to sit at your right hand? I want to sit at your left hand. He's going to sit at your right. He's like, really? I mean, it's just. So having relationships and people to help clarify what that will is and what part of the story you're playing right now, to help you, get some focus on that and stay accountable, man, that is just absolutely priceless. So what's the point of this story? Well, one would be, the really obvious, don't run from God. I mean, just put a sign in your mirror, goals. Should have your goals up on your mirror, right? And one of them ought to be, don't run from God. It's just, there's no more miserable a human being than somebody that just knows in their gut and their heart what God is asking them to do, and you're just running from it. Man, that is a horrible place to, because it just it just eats at you. Nothing tastes good. Can't drink enough. Nothing. It just sits in there and goes. You can't. It may not be that obvious. You're about to cause a ship, but man, it can feel like that at times. You go. It's just an aching thing, and so don't run. And the opposite would be, so get around some people and give them permission to tell them, hey, this is kind of what I think. Now, if they all look at you and go, I know you really, in your gut, you really feel like God is calling you to be a worship leader. But part of the body of Christ, there's different gifts, and that's not yours. Like, you can't sing. You can't. Hey, I've been a part of some big churches, and people get offended because, he had to try out for the worship team. We were trying to protect both them and the church, because, anybody watch American Idol? The people who are generally shocked, like, I liked it better when Simon was there, because he's like, oh my gosh, that was the worst thing I've ever done. I'm going to come back. No, don't ever come back. This is not, I love that kind of honesty. I wish we, and so to have some people that can look at you and say, that's not that, hey, I don't think that's your area. I'm watching you and I'm seeing, and that is so valuable. And look over here, and you go, I'm kind of afraid of it. I know, but you'd be so good at this. Find some people who can speak into your life and give them permission. You don't have to do that perfectly. When somebody challenges me, you think I like that? Heck no. We're going to leave my spouse out at the moment. We're not going to talk about that. So I'm leaving the house this morning because this is a husband moment. I'm just about to walk up. She said, hey, you got something? I said, oh, no, I think it's water. I think I leaned on something, And I drove all the way over here, plenty of time for the water to dry, only to get out and realize, yeah, it's not water. Clearly got something on my shirt and something, and I know it's, yeah. So So, have people that will go, hey, there's something green, right? Those are priceless people, especially when you're talking in your spiritual life, in your marriage and parenting and family. Those are priceless. I mean, it's amazing how many things we say out loud that are just, if somebody else said that to us, we would hit them. I mean, we literally, when we think things about ourselves that are completely unbiblical and just horrible thoughts, and we would never let somebody else talk to us that way. So having people in your life that can hear that and go, whoa, 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 no, you're not stupid, and the bad things don't always happen. That's not how this, we mean, just little things like that, to have people go, hey man, you need to pay attention. If you have a kid, I remember a girl at church, and her son did something, broke a lamp or not something. He would hit himself, trying to punish himself before anybody else did. And we do that stuff. And sometimes we don't even know it. And so to have some people around you that can kind of stop you and say, hey, what you just said right there about marriage or your parent, man, be careful with that. I mean, that is so priceless. That is totally not church. Like, that doesn't happen on Sunday morning, but small groups and relationships, it is so priceless to have people that'll speak into your life like that. So don't run. It's not going to work well. So that's a pretty simple answer on that one. And that's the wrong way. Number 2, this bigger point, everything in the Old Testament, everything in the Bible is pointing to Jesus. So this story is not random or accidental. There's another story many years later, and there's a guy, and they're in the boat, and so here's Jesus, some of the disciples in the boat. And what's happening with the weather and the waves? Same stuff. Oh my gosh. And what's the dude in the front of the boat doing? Sleeping. Do you think this is an accident? That is, so people are going, oh my gosh, we're going to die. The waves, the boat, the whole thing is happening. Dude in the front is sleeping, and they wake him up, we're going to die. Difference here would be this guy gets to stand up and go, hey, stop with all the wind, and then it all stops. Same reaction, oh my gosh, wow, that was amazing. So you would say a little bit different ending if you just look at that picture. But one, how cool is that God gives us these examples all through to tie this thing together. This is many thousands of years later. And in that journey, if you think about the biggest picture, though, Jesus really does end up sacrificing himself, just like Jonah did. He did it. He didn't make people, he gave himself. And so, and it even says in Matthew, he says, I'm greater than Jonah. I'm like the real Jonah. He connects the dots. And I find that so amazing that over that many years, this story, there is no, it's not like these guys could all get together. Hey, let's write, let's write Lord of the Rings trilogy and make a bunch of movies. They didn't. There's so many lifetimes separating all this, and it all ties together. I find that so cool and inspiring, and it's easy to read about their lives and go, wow, look how they fit into it. And you don't have the thought, well, that's true of me too. Well, I'm not that. Well, they didn't think. You think at that moment, Jonah knew, man, they're going to write a book about me. This is going to be so cool later on. I mean, disciples, nobody thought they're playing a bigger part of this picture. They just thought, I'm just doing my life. And if you don't get that, if you don't understand how important your piece of this puzzle is, you might miss some amazing, amazing opportunities. So please don't underestimate the impact you can make on the bigger story. He's got you here for a reason. This is not an accident. This not. I mean, and that should inspire you. It also should cause you to take some responsibility and go, this is, I tell people all the time, this is not a dress rehearsal. My mom died at 48 years old. I got a good friend right now that was in my singles group back in Dallas. Hadn't talked to her in a few years, and come to find out, she's just took herself off all the chemo. She's done. She's ready to go, and she's like, I got about 30 days, And so she's writing all these letters. She's writing letters to people saying, "Thank you so much for the impact you had on my life." And you're going, And so she's telling people, look what you did to impact me, and I mean, just don't underestimate your piece of the puzzle. Please don't ever, oh, I'm not worthy, I'm not, that's that stuff we start thinking that you need people around you breathing belief into you, all telling you, because you are playing some significant part of this story. And if you don't play that part, I don't know what the ramifications are, but you know, that'd be a shame to miss how valuable your life is and the impact you can make it. So please don't underestimate that. Nobody thinks at the moment that they're changing the world, and yet they are. So Jesus later on gets sacrificed. You know, of course, next weekend is going to be all about that deal, the whole Easter thing and all the stuff that's going on there, the bigger story of what's happening. And if you think about what Jesus is, you know, one of the statements I learned from a pastor buddy of mine was, Jesus didn't come to make bad people good. That's not what he did. He came to make dead people alive. That's the whole reborn and all that. I mean, like, literally, it's that dramatic. We tend to think it's a little minor of that, but what he did, this whole journey throughout the Bible and all these stories tying together is because we're all in the same boat. I mean, we are all toast. I mean, without that impact, without him coming in and stepping into the story. I mean, think about this, y'all. There's a story here. The author is writing this story, and what makes this story so different is that at a point in time, the author of the story actually steps into the story as a character. Like, goes from being the author and writing it to stepping in and playing a role. It's like, I mean, it's great. It's just amazing. And so that is what makes this so different than every other story. He writes an ending that is brutal, and we're going to learn about that at Easter. And then he says, yeah, and I'm going to play that role. I mean, so every little piece adding up together, going through, it's so fascinating. And that should all give you confidence that, man, this thing's going somewhere. It's supposed to drive you that way. So, is God's will easy? Well, yeah, no. I think we tend to do the whole, oh no, it's God's will because I'll just have this peace. I'm telling you, read the Bible. Go study that one out. I think you'll find out. What is probably a better indicator that you're doing something that's in God's will? Is probably it's hard, you're afraid, it's uncomfortable. I mean, that's not fun. You know, like I'm coming to that realization, like, well, that's not cool. I mean, when I signed up for this Christianity thing, I didn't think, yeah, put me in on that one. I want the one that makes me live with fear. It totally makes me uncomfortable. And you know, we hear, no, I mean, it's going to be roses and birds, and they're going to be singing, why do birds suddenly appear every time? I mean, it's just going to be, that's not what's in there. If you want to know, how do I kind of know God is calling me somewhere? Okay, does it cause you to be uncomfortable? Are you a little afraid of that? You know, well, you might be onto something. That might be God there. No, I am totally at peace about, you know, going all by myself to Mexico and whatever. I mean, you know, well, then you're probably going on vacation. I mean, you know, that's probably not, you know. So I don't know the last time I looked into my life and said, what in my life is causing me fear, is uncomfortable to think about? Because what do most of us do with those issues? Man, we just avoid them. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to go there. I don't want to get about this. I'll just avoid those. And so everything I'm reading here says, no, what you ought to do is go, hey God, is that something you're asking me to do? Is that something you're calling? Is that man, I don't want to ask that question. You know why? He might say, yeah, oh yeah. And I'm like, shoot. And then anyway, now I know God's calling me that way. I'm like, well, I can try running. You know, I mean, done that a few times. That didn't usually work out. So the reality of this and what it means to live in this, So it could be a little scary, but I think that's what you ought to look for. You ought to be paying attention to what is it that makes you a little bit afraid. I keep going the wrong way with my yellow pad. So if doing God's will is only about us, then I think I tend to interpret things in one way. When I look at the story and when I really see what's going on, the harsh reality is finding what God's will is and what you're supposed to do. Reality is it's got very little to do with you or me. It's always about others. And so then it's like, anybody like selfish people? Anybody like hanging out with selfish people? Yeah. And what I got there was, well, I mean, if you're not doing what God has called you, then, dude, you're just selfish. It's just, you're just making it all about you. And I'm like, well, see, that's why I don't want to ask this question, because I get those kind of answers, and those make me uncomfortable. And so, but it's true. If you're not even asking and looking, then you're saying, I don't care. I don't care. This is what I want to do. This is comfortable. This is my agenda. This is my plan. This I want to have. Okay, so you're just living your life all about you. If your kids do that, hopefully you challenge them and go, hey, man, so it's such a selfish thing to do to not ask these questions. It's when you know where you're supposed to, it is such a selfish thing to do to not go pursue that, which is just not fluffy bunny Christianity. I mean, it's just not. We love to read those stories. We love to hear about other people doing those things. We love to hear about success after all the hard work. We love to hear about the ending of that. It's just in the middle of the thing. Like the dude ends up in a fish. I mean, I don't know what that's like. Anybody clean fish? You ever cleaned a deer? I mean, like, there's just no way that's good. I mean, there's just, it could sound like you see the cartoons and the Veggie Tales where he's hanging out in there and it's like, whatever. Okay. I'm pretty sure it was, all kind of nasty stuff inside the belly of it. And so that moment, can you imagine that moment to go, I'm right. I am, right now God is doing an amazing work through me. I mean, you're like, yeah, I'm covered with slime and mucus. And I think that is such an accurate picture of when I look back over the times in my life where it seems like I've actually God has used me to do something. Man, in the moment, it was usually messy. I can't think of a clean situation where I feel like I made any kind of impact ever. Every time it was some drama, dynamic thing was happening. It was mess, and I look back and go, wow, look at that and that. Now at the moment, dude, I'm just trying to keep my head above water and figure out how to keep things from falling apart. And somewhere in that, there's something amazing that happens. And so don't judge this by what's currently going on and how you feel. I think it's incredibly selfish because you just don't know whose life you are not impacting because. So I've got, and this is my confession. My wife knows a little bit about this, not a lot. So, didn't know she was coming originally when I was going to talk about this. And so, anyway, so one of the areas for me, I do, some of y'all know before, I do tactical training and personal security as a hobby. It's just kind of a fun thing for me. Well, God is leading that into this human trafficking, sex industry. Like there's all these kids that are being taken and sold, and it's a horrifically dark, evil, horrible thing that happens locally and all over the world. And so I've gotten contacts through a guy in Belize that's a missionary who they are running, pulling girls out that are being sold and trying to, take them to safe houses and get them out of the country. And they're having some logistical problems, which tends to be kind of my niche. And so he's asking for some help. And so then I got a couple that goes to Panama, and similar things are happening over there. And so God is connecting people like every time I turn around, somebody who's like an expert in this area and an expert. I'm in the men's room in Dallas last weekend at this event, and I hear a guy talk about tactical something, and I said something to him, and that led to, oh yeah, we know these SEALs, and we're starting to do this human trafficking stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, everywhere I turn, something's going, hey. And I'm going, okay, you're like, what? What do you want me to do with this? And so we finally, a group of us got together this last week, and all these people got together and said, okay, something's going on here. We all have a piece of the puzzle. None of us seem to really know what's happening, but let's just get together and talk about what's going on. So in the middle of that, there's a girl shows up who's from Panama. She's a native to Panama, and so they were talking about a situation that happened over there where one of the girls that they've been working with, there's a kind of an indigenous population over there, and they end up kind of on an Indian reservation kind of a thing. It's just a dark, and once you hit a certain age, not much opportunity, and so prostitution becomes pretty. If you're going to eat, this is kind of what you're going to go do down there, and so it's just a really bad situation, very, very, very sad. And so this girl walks by, and there's a child, a 12-year-old girl with a little bitty puppy sitting on the corner, and this one girl walks by and hears almost audibly God saying, "I want you to go talk to her about Christianity," and she, of course, did what all of us did. That's probably not God. That's probably not God. So she just kept on walking on. I don't know what to say. Just walked right on by, right? Comes back in 30 minutes. Literally forgot something at her house. Had to turn around 30 minutes later. Girl's still there. She's like, God's going, I want you to go. I want you. I mean, just not like peace. There's no peace here. There's fear. Fear was saying, I want you to go talk to this girl. She's like, and she walks to her house. Gets her stuff, comes back again. So it's been a total of an hour and 15 minutes. This little girl, puppy just standing there, looking like they're going somewhere, just standing there. Comes walking by. She's like, oh my gosh, go away. What I mean? And so she gets up there, and all of a sudden, the puppy runs all the way over to where she is and just starts going in between her legs. And she's like, seriously, really, God? I mean, and so then it gets worse. And she's still God, she's arguing the whole time. It's just internal. I don't know what to say. Who am I to say? This is uncomfortable. Girl walks up to her, looks her in the face, says, "Are you a Christian?" And she's like, oh my gosh, what I mean? So start a conversation. The girl is at that age where she's essentially being groomed for sex trafficking. That's the age and what's happening. So as a result of that conversation, not anything on her part, the persistence of God, that girl, she's now adopted that girl. She's living with her. Completely saved her from a life. And so for her, it's it was just so convicting. It was just so convicting to go, I knew I should do. It was such a simple thing. Walk up to a 12-year-old and just go, hey, man, do you know God? We're not talking about jumping in the belly of the beast here. We're talking, hey, little 12-year-old. And she was still terrified. Why? Because we all are. We all are, we're all afraid of stuff and things. But if she wouldn't, she would say, I can't say that I listened to the will of God because it just seemed like, but if she wouldn't have at least at some point acted and moved on that, think what that girl's life would be today. And she said, oh, it's just so convicting to think how many other people there are that we could do something with. And so it is incredibly selfish. So is it easy? No, never. It's never, ever easy. And that's because we don't do this thing without God, y'all. The problem is we start thinking, can I do that? And he's like, well, no, dummy. Of course you can't do that. Look at your life. What can you do? Well, not that much. Well, apparently. And so we really of course you can't do it. That's why we need God. That's the whole reason he jumped in the middle of the story. We can't do this thing without him. That's the clear message. So when he's saying, I want you to go do this, we start thinking, am I capable? And he's like, well, what's that got to do with it? Of course you're not capable. You're not capable. Man, you can't wake up tomorrow if I don't give you the breath to wake up. It's our breath in our lungs. It's his breath. So, no, it's never, ever going to be comfortable. What about Jonah's reputation? Nineveh was a bad place. He's like, Jonah, I'm a Hebrew, and I know God, and so we don't go to that place. That place is really, really, really bad. You don't think that was working on him. I don't know what his reasons were, but how many times do we think, I don't want to go there or talk to them, say that, do that, go, what do people think about me? And I always want to go, what people exactly? Like, seriously. You know, what? There's not like cameras following us around. The whole world's going to see. I mean, you know, 4 people may know what we do ultimately, when, you know, and out of the billions. I mean, so we're all so worried about a reputation that really statistically, nobody in the world even knows who we are. And so we're so worried about people, what people in Africa, you care what they think? I mean, you care about, I mean, what are we all get hung up on this stuff because this is what society says, and God's going, what's that got to do with anything? I mean, it's about you and me. What I think about you pretty much is what it's about there. So, yeah, Jonah's definitely afraid of that. So, this is a pretty live, volatile little situation going on. But how many of you, how many know who Stormy Daniels is? How many know who Stormy? She's been a little bit on the news lately. There's a billboard or two around town. Yeah. You know, porn star, stripper, you know, lots of things she's done in life, right? So now she's the Trump deal and all that's going on, right? So she's a pretty public figure out there. So anybody interested in inviting her to, like, Easter dinner? That crossed anybody's mind to say, hey, I should get a hold of her and see if she'll come to church on Easter? Or, like, so we're talking about reputation. How risky would that be right now in this culture? Down south especially, how would that go to say, yeah, I'm going to bring her to church. I'm going to invite her on a, you know, that would be a tad bit challenging for almost every church I know anywhere in the South or North. That bringing her to church would cause some drama on us on an Easter Sunday morning. You know, but why don't we do that? Because the reputation of that. This is so funny. I write my notes and then I can't follow my own daggum notes. There we go. So you think about, yeah, I think, you know, well, be a little. What they say about Jesus? You're hanging out with like prostitutes and sinners, and I'm thinking, that sounds cool. Until it's your mom, dad, sister, brother, somebody giving you all kind of crap because you're hanging out with those people. Like, once it hits home, it's just so much more uncomfortable, you know. Well, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're at. And so, what's been happening lately, nobody in this room really knows this. Obviously, she's been in town, did 2 shows, a Friday night, Saturday night. The Purchased Ministry, Leanne, that group, they all showed up Friday night to go. They go into clubs, and, you know, they're the ones pulling people out of prostitution and out of that lifestyle. So they're in there. So we're in this meeting about human trafficking and all this other stuff going on, and we're all telling our reason of why we're there. And a friend of mine says, hey, I've actually been building a relationship with a lady for a little over a year now, because she happens, you know, Stormy's married, got an 8-year-old daughter. She enjoys horses. She actually rides English and does things and stuff, you know. And so, so through that scenario, somebody met her and started building a relationship with her. Now, this is before she went completely, totally public, but it was still quite a, you know, everybody knew, you know, what she did. And so over time, things have happened. You know, she's got to know her. She's, you know, just found out, obviously, she's, you know, she's a mom and has a daughter, and they have to homeschool the daughter because the lifestyle she's chosen makes it pretty awkward for her 8-year-old daughter to be anywhere. People are going to say things and do things. And they're at a horse show one time. Daughter scratches her eye. So they go to find somebody that has, like, you know, they need some antibiotic. I want me to put it on there. And somebody told them, oh, you can put the same stuff we use on horses. It's no problem. That'll actually help that a lot. They went and found somebody. And as soon as they found out who it was, they're like, oh, no, we ain't helping her. I mean, 8-year-old girl, little girl, and because of her mom, they refused to. You know, obviously she runs into that over and over and over and over again in her life because reaping and sowing and the industry she's in is that. So this person has been building this relationship. So for the last 2 days, Friday and yesterday, my friend, invites her to her place just to come get away and come ride and, you know, hang out and chill. And she's like going, okay, tactically, I mean, what do we do? I mean, security and all this funny and all that stuff. So we're talking that through a little bit, and she's like, I mean, this is good. I've invited her to church. I was like, have you told your pastor? You know, you might, you might. So anyway, she did, and he was, you know, yeah, come on, you know, kind of thing. So I'm like, okay, cool. And so for 2 days, Stormy's come out to her place, and they've hung out, and they've talked life and mom parenting and how to get out of the industry is something that they've been talking about for over a year. How do I get out of it? She tells her story about being in an abusive home, and this was her escape. The only way out of, she said, I'm pretty much sure I'd be dead if I hadn't got out this industry. I mean, right or wrong, it helped me. I mean, everybody becomes human when you hear the story and why they are where they are. And so she's been pursuing and building this relationship to share them, you know, to share the message. She said, oh yeah, you know, the church thing, had some pretty bad experiences with people that, you know, said they're Christians. Obviously, that's gone rough. And come to find out, her personal assistant is a believer. Now, you want to talk about a gutsy, can you imagine that? Hey, Mom, I got a job as a personal assistant for a real famous celebrity. Oh, that's awesome. Who is it? Oh, yeah, this lady. You're like, oh, yeah, you know. So personal assistant is, both her bodyguards are both believers. And so so this lady and these other, they're all like, I mean, it's like this engaged conversation, you know, about what Christianity really is and what it really isn't. And sorry about what I mean, it was just this cool, my friend's going, oh my gosh. I mean, you know, you think you're just doing this, you find out, man, there's something way bigger. God is connecting dots of people. But how gutsy is that? I'm like, now she's going, I feel so inadequate. This is before she goes, Rusty, who am I? I mean, I'm thinking about who might I be? I'm like, whoa. Don't you dare let the enemy come and do that. I mean, you know, you are exactly who you need to be. You are, you know, gracious and loving. You are honest about your faith. You're not condoning lifestyle or career choices. You're saying, hey, there's a way. I mean, this is beautiful what you're doing. I mean, I am totally cool jumping up in front of everybody saying, yes, I have a relationship, you know, through common interest right here so I can share my faith with her. Heck yeah, I do. I was like, I love that kind of Christianity right there, you know. And so, but it's different to say, they all did that at the private, you know, because obvious reasons. I'm going to put out in public, but showing up at a restaurant, sitting next to her, walking into church with her, dude, I mean, I said, you know, the one group that's going to criticize you, you know who that is. It's going to be the church. You're the one group that's going to come after you for trying to build is going to be the religious. It's always been the way it is and always will be. So is she justified in some of her fears? Absolutely. She will catch some stuff. Could it affect professional relations? Absolutely could. And yet she's tried to not reach out to her, and she said, and God just won't leave me alone. She goes like, you know, you're like, oh, God. Like she sent her some little casual text, and God's like, oh no, I want you to. She's like, oh my gosh, you know, really? So she's just faithfully reaching out and ministering, and now piece of the puzzle. And so now they're talking about several options to get her completely out of the industry and things. You know, that's all not going to be on the news, and we're not going. But how amazing! And to sit in that room, and one of the ladies over here said, whoa, wait a minute. When I saw she was coming to town, we're part of we're going to go to the Hustler Club and go minister to those strippers. That's what we do. We go in there and build a relationship. I just spent 3 days researching everything about her to get to know her and who she is. And now you show up, you're telling me, you know, I mean, it was so amazing to watch the puzzle pieces come together and go, everybody felt like they're in their isolated little piece of the story. And it turns out there is a much bigger story unfolding here that God's been coordinating. Well, that is just so fun to do life like they are. Chris, are there fears? Yeah. And after a while, you just kind of learn to go, yeah, there are. I mean, look, it is clear we have an enemy. And he says he's a roaring lion. He's running around looking for who he can devour. If you don't know that's real, I mean, look at life. Explain life if you don't get. So that is real. There is really an enemy. So, and he does not say you will not come in contact with him, run around. You will not face him. I didn't say that. He just says, but don't be afraid. I'll be with you all the time. I'm going to always be with her. And that's her. She's like, I don't know. I'm scared. But I know this is what God has asked me to do. And y'all just pray that, you know, I'm listening to hear. And I say, hey, you know he's going to be with you. He's not going to bring you into that and leave you hanging. That's not how this thing works. So the story that we're a part of is so fascinating. So you may not feel like Jonah. Sometimes you may feel like Jonah. But in the end, somewhere in here, we have a role, and we have a part. Every day, there is some place God wants you to go and make an impact. And it may not be that dramatic. So we talk about the next 6-7 days. You got 6 days, basically, before Easter. It's the one day of the year that people who have no interest or God in church just kind of feel a social responsibility to go to church anyway. I mean, so that is an opportunity. That is a strategic opportunity. So for the next 6 days, I'll be praying that God makes you miserably uncomfortable and afraid, to invite people to church on it. Look, the truth is, I'm not a big, huge church inviter. I prefer a relational. Go get to know them, build a relationship, then the natural flow of things can lead to church. I don't do it. But this is a special kind of Sunday. This is a unique time, and I think you'd be smart on these. And so, I do. You should all look at each other and say, hey, man, who are you afraid to ask? Like, who's like totally scared? Who's your chicken list? Good. Come on. What are their names? I would ask people to tell you, and think about who that is, because you have a moment. Is it going to be a little uncomfortable or weird to invite people? Yeah, it probably will be. Yep, so what? I mean, the impact and what it can mean and it's just some people are going to show up to church next Sunday and for the first time go, I've never heard this message in this way. I've heard, church, I've never heard this. And they're going to go to some church somewhere. Raymond, he would say this maybe too, but I would prefer they come here or to my church, because those are 2 churches I really like a lot. So I trust what will happen if they show up here. I trust that they will be loved and welcomed, and they will have a chance to experience, this isn't the kind of Christianity or church. We love that. So they're going to go somewhere, y'all. If you don't invite them and bring them here, they may show up to some place where you walk in and they say, what do you do? Well, I'm a stripper. And they're like, you're out. I mean, it happens all the time on Sunday mornings. We need to make sure they got the best shot of seeing and feeling and hearing, a really good message of the gospel. So please ask God, who is it? Anybody, throw that clear. Anybody, you tell me, and then tell somebody. I dare you to tell somebody, especially if you're afraid of asking that person. All right, I feel like I'm supposed to ask so-and-so. And he's going to go, seriously? Yeah. Okay. And then you stay on him. And, stay on him. Do what y'all do so well. Just, if y'all would do that with each other, I mean, what a fun Sunday this would be. To be sitting next to people you're totally oh, my God, what are they thinking? What are they thinking? I hope a lot of that's going on. I really, really do. I think the impact and the opportunity is amazing. And so you are playing a part of the story. Don't miss your story. It's completely selfish, and the rewards are all on the other sides of the fear. Push through the fear. Find people to help you. Band together. Whatever it takes. Get over it and do that. And I'm telling you, you can be shocked at what can happen in the lives that you can change and the people's lives you can impact. So let's pray. Father, it is fun and terrorizing all at the same time to be a part of your story and your journey, because we just have no idea what you're doing and where. But in the end, what we do know is it's a beautiful story. It's all for our good and those good around us. And the truth is, it doesn't happen without us. You have chosen to use us. Broken, messed up, yep. And you choose to use us to carry out your will throughout this world. And so we are saying, here am I. You send me, use me, help me, help me with the fear, give me the faith, help me identify what you want me to do, and then give me the courage and the strength to do that, God. And we just trust you that you're going to work on the hearts of every one of us over the next week. And next Sunday is going to be a life-changing day for a bunch of people. And we thank you for doing that now. In Jesus' name.
And I hear the Savior say, thy strength indeed is small. Child of weakness, watch and pray. Find in me thine all in all. 'Cause Jesus paid it all. All to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain. He washed it white as snow. Now indeed I find thy power and thine alone can change the leper's spots and melt the heart of stone. 'Cause Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. And when before the throne I stand incomplete, Jesus died my soul to save. My lips shall still repeat that Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. He washed it white as snow. He washed it white as snow. Oh, praise the one who paid my debt and raised this life up from the dead. Oh, praise the one who paid my debt and raised this life up from the dead. Oh, praise the one who paid my debt and raised this life up from the dead. Oh, praise the one who paid my debt and raised this life up from the dead. 'Cause Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow.
Okay, church, it's now decision time. It's time to take your next step. For some of you, it may be today is the day that you will accept the Lord Jesus Christ into your heart for salvation. For some, it may be recommitment. You've accepted Christ, but maybe you haven't been following him, and it's time now. And for some of you, your next step is to make sure that you leave here changed. Don't leave the same as you walked in here today. God is moving in your life, so commit to move closer to him. Hey, we got real fast announcements. Please, if you're a guest today, fill out your Orange Connection card and meet Allie in the back for a gift. And don't forget, Easter is next Sunday, so make sure to invite your family, your friends, and your co-workers. We're going to have an Easter egg hunt for the kids and a huge potluck. You won't want to miss out on that. And if you came today to give a tithe or an offering, just drop it in that orange tour pack in the back on your way out. We love you. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon. God bless.
All right, y'all. Thanks for coming today. Let's have a great week. We'll make some things happen and have some fun next Sunday. So, been good to be here. So, thanks, y'all.
high. If you're lost and wandering, come stumbling in like a prodigal child. See the walls start crumbling with the gates of glory open wide. Y'all who strayed and walked away, unspeakable things you've done. Fix your eyes on the mountain, let the past be dead and gone. Come on, saints and sinners, you can't outrun God. Whatever you've done can't overcome the power of the blood. If you're lost and wandering, come stumbling in like a prodigal child. See the walls start crumbling, let the gates of glory open wide. If you're lost and wrecked again, come stumbling in like a prodigal